Hey everyone, this is Ryan with From Corners Unknown. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another episode of Voices from Corners Unknown. This is our 18th episode, and I'm joined, as per usual, with my co-host Connor, and we're here to, as is tradition here, talk about 3 albums. And I think we have a pretty good palette of sounds to discuss. We've got some neoclassical cinematic dark ambient from Flowers for Body Snatchers, some D-beat raw punk from Starvation, and then we have some really interesting progressive sludgy doom jazz from Potmus Hitoimus. I am already flubbing on pronouncing that. I apologize. But yeah, we have these 3 albums to discuss, and I think that this should be a pretty good conversation, continuing to go in some more uncharted territories, trying to delve a bit deeper into some stranger genres here. So yeah, hopefully you folks enjoy this episode, and yeah, man, where do you want to start the conversation with this one?
I'm totally cool starting with Starvation, the 5-track demo.
Perfect. Yeah, let's do that. Starvation, so we're reviewing a 5-track demo, or their debut 5-track demo. This one came out on British Columbia-based Slow Death Records, and they are a hardcore label that are essentially dedicated to hardcore bands from the British Columbia area per their Bandcamp description. And I stumbled upon this one when looking for artists to contribute to the From Corners Unknown compilation volume 2, and I think that they're going to be providing us a track for that compilation, which is great, and it's not on this demo. But yeah, I stumbled upon these folks a number of weeks ago whilst looking for bands to recruit, and I don't know, this one just really struck me. It's very brief. It's literally 5 songs, and I think
like
it's
6 minutes or something.
yeah, it's just 6 minutes, so it's very raw. It kind of gets in and out. It goes really fast. But I think I really enjoyed this one. It stuck out to me quite a bit. And the only thing I could surmise is that they are from British Columbia, or that is where all the members are based. I'm actually not fully aware of how many people are in the band, so I don't have much else to go on. Did you do any research, unearth anything on these guys in addition to what I already said?
No, I mean, I tried to find stuff too, but yeah, there's not much that I could find on the internet.
Right. I mean, and maybe that is kind of the intention. I don't know if they just choose not to have some sort of a social media presence, and that's totally fine.
Understandable.
Actually, I'm a bit envious.
Aren't we all?
Or they just have some relatively cryptic naming scheme for some of their pages, because if you type in Starvation, you get a lot of different things on, say, Facebook. A bunch of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff.
Right. So yeah, what did you think of these guys, man? I don't know if you're into the punk D-beat kind of stuff. I'm not. I've dug into punk a little bit. I'm not as familiar as a lot of other folks are, obviously, but I thought this would be a nice way to break up the pace of some of the heftier albums we'll be discussing in this episode.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't really listen to too much myself either, but in the right mood, I can totally get down with this stuff.
Right.
It's fast and just fucking crazy and dirty, and it's just in your face for short amounts of time. That's one thing. It's not like you're listening to an hour of this straight unless you listen to like multiple things. I've noticed this kind of genre and similar ones tend to keep the tracks on the shorter side.
Yes.
And
yes.
Yeah, this one was a It's a gnarly one.
Yeah, it's great. What did you think of the, like, I mean, this is where the conversation can be a little strange to the extent that, this is a demo. So I don't know how, if the production on this is intentionally raw because it is a demo and they're just trying to kind of get their feet wet, get some tracks out there so people can get some interest, or if in a future release, if they have an EP or an LP come out, say next year, I don't know how much the production may or may not change.
Right.
But for just this demo alone, what did you think of it just overall?
I feel like the production being a little more on like the raw side definitely, fits the whole feel of the music.
Definitely.
Even if it's not on purpose, but
yeah, and that's why I kind of wish I knew if it was intentional or not, and it will be interesting for future releases to see if they change the production a bit, because I think that may be maybe one of the key components that grabbed me about this demo right out the gate is just the way the instruments were so chaotic, and it just had, like, as you were saying, has that rawness to it. Like the guitars are kind of, you can kind of hear the static and the crackles kind of coming off of it, and the drums are pretty cacophonous, but they're also really punchy, and the vocals, I love the vocals as well, because they have like that.
Oh, dude, they are.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like guttural and acidic, and they have like this echoey reverb sound to them, so it sounds like they're kind of in a cave, almost kind of in the vein of that that other band we spoke about, Piss Blood.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I would say like Piss Blood was probably more cavernous sounding, and these guys I would say are definitely rawer in the overall sound of this. But
yeah, it sounds anyway. Like you got you went into like a dog pound and there's just a bunch of fucking dogs barking at each other.
yeah, no, it is pretty visceral, and I think that it's the production and the vocals got me pretty much right on right off the bat when this kicked off. And are there specific components that, I mean, we can dive into a couple specific tracks, but are there other things that kind of struck you about this first listen, or things that really caught your ear after repeated listens?
Well, one thing I noticed was cool because, a lot of these kind of harder, hardcore punk, D beat stuff, it's kind of had like those little feedback, little interlude things where the track ends with some form of feedback, and the next one, this time instead it's like, the vocals kind of echo out with like some weird distortion and carry on to the next track, and then then the instruments come in. Fucking I kind of like how that was their little transition from track to track.
Yeah, they do a nice job, and I appreciate that extra touch that they put into their music, kind of tying. Because when I listened to this, I did notice that after a couple listens, it seems like all 5 tracks are strung together in a sense, and then the only thing that kind of breaks up the pace is Bandcamp loading the next damn track to play it. Like there's like that little and then it starts going again. But I would say, I mean, we can go into a handful of tracks. This is a pretty
dude, it's like 6 minutes. Might as well.
right. But I really like all the tracks, obviously, because we're talking about it here. But Humanity's Final Breath is the opening track, and you get this shrill little spurt of feedback, and it has this you get that shrill spurt of feedback, and then there's, I don't know, it's just really cacophonous riffage, and the drums and the way the double kick or the kick drum is going. Maybe I could be misspeaking on the double kick component, but the kick and the way the snare cracks, it's just so loud.
This is definitely one where I just kept turning up the volume more and more. I'm already deaf as it is, so I gotta listen to my music. That's ruining my ears even more. Yay!
Right.
But dude, the drums and just the rawness of everything, so good in every track.
Yeah, and I really like near the end of this track in particular. So you kind of get that feedback in the beginning, and there's just kind of this chaotic riffage going on for, the song is only a minute, just a bit north of a minute in length, and then near the end there's this. It's something that I don't necessarily know how to articulate very well, but it has kind of this brightness to it. The way, and it could be just kind of the progression of the riff, or like the way the riff is moving, but it had like this brightness to it, and I thought it was a really interesting way that it grates and contrasts against the acidic barks and kind of the really harsh pounding drums. I don't know if you picked up on that, or if you can confirm my delusions for me.
Yeah, I kind of got that. And a couple of the tracks actually kind of got that feel.
Yeah, and I thought, I just liked the way that they juxtaposed a bit of that brightness. I don't know, it seems like that, well, and that brightness also comes through on the last track of this Endless Fight, and I was wondering if they, did that intentionally to kind of bookend, because it seems, I don't think that the riff is the same riff, but it seems like it's kind of a nice way to open, close, bookend it, if you will.
Yeah, paperclip it.
Callback. Right. Nice callback to episode 16.
Yeah, dude, I'm paper clipping our own podcast,
Yes. But yeah, I really like that one. And then the second track, My Hate, that one is pretty much just this straight up ceaseless barrage of punk riffage and, rapid cracks of snare. And it's 52 seconds, just kind of undiluted, breakneck pace, nonstop for those full 52 seconds. Just kind of cudgels you in the back of the skull.
Like, I love this kind of just this gritty storm of a guitar throughout that track too.
Right. Yes, I like that. And then I also like, I mean, we could probably go into each track if we wanted to, but what I liked on the fourth track as well, or what I liked on the fourth track, Life Cage, it has this neat little soaring guitar intro of a sort. And what I like about this track in particular is it's a bit slower than the tracks preceding it, even though the three prior tracks, when you sum them all up in length, it's literally 3 minutes. This track, Life Cage, has this, it has a little bit more of a plodding pace, and I think that it mixes up the sound just enough to make it a more engaging listen overall, as opposed to it just blowing by it like as a 6 minute barrage of just riffs and really cacophonous drumming and acidic vocals.
Yeah, on the track Rat, number 3, that one had like more of like more of just a traditional punk vibe to me. I don't know if it's more of the upbeatness of the guitar or something, but yeah, and then there's another like riff that kind of comes in the second portion of the track, which I liked.
Yes.
And then, of course, I love the little weird scream intro, outro, echo stuff.
Yeah, and on that, that third track, Rat, I really did enjoy the tail end, no pun intended, of that track. And yeah, the whole thing. So as I noted earlier, you have that Endless Fight track, and to like kind of bookend it, it has. There's just like this brightness to the riff, and it kind of has this, I don't know, I don't know if I can relate it to the title of the track. I'm not sure what the lyrics are. They're not posted on the Bandcamp release, but it seems to maybe sync up with the sentiment of the Endless Fight. I don't know. It kind of gave me, it had like a hopeful timbre to it. Maybe I'm full of crap on that. That's just kind of the vibe I got. But then it closes out with, I think, one of the guys in the band.
Oh, dude.
Almost sounding like he's going to puke or whatever, and he just starts heaving. Yes.
Dude, I wonder if that was the vocalist, because I remember, like, one of the first times I really engaged into the whole, demo.
Yes.
I was just like, geez, dude, like, this gnarly, acidic, kind of barking vocals sound like they'd be pretty gnarly on your throat. And then, like, when you
yeah.
get to the end, you start, like, the whole puking sequence happens. So it's just all like, yeah, it could be him. But yeah, that part's
Yeah,
great.
it could be. It could be. Yeah, who knows? Maybe he was screaming his head off in the studio whilst recording this, and he went outside to go take a breather, and it was. I really don't know what the story to that sound sample is. I'm sure it's from the band or the bandmates themselves. I'm sure it happened amongst them.
I mean, they could have been just getting sloshed, while recording too, just
Yeah, who
pounding
knows? Who
beers, and it's
knows?
just like, oh shit, this doesn't work well together. But I don't know. We're just making up stories.
Right. I mean, it's
possible, yeah.
but right. But yeah. So overall, though, this is a really brief 5-track demo. It's very quick, succinct. I enjoy it very much, and I wanted to talk about this one just a bit, and hopefully turn a few more folks onto this. And I think it serves as a nice, it's just a quick conversation about this one. I don't think we've talked about really too many bands in this genre, and hopefully we can carve out a few more as we trudge ahead into episodes later on. But I really enjoy the vocals and just the sheer rawness and energy that exudes from each track. It blows by, and it's kind of one of those things where you just kind of feel compelled to hit the repeat button as soon as it ends.
And since it's not just massive 1 hour of ambience or something, you can really just kind of be okay with listening to the whole thing over and over again.
Right, yeah, you can put it on repeat, and yeah, you can probably listen to it 4 or 5 times in a row, and it would be totally fine. But yeah, if you like really, just really guttural, barking sort of vocals, and just extremely raw production on guitars and really punchy drums, I think this is a neat release to check out, and you can grab it from Slow Death Records. I think it's only $1 for digital, and you can get the cassette for $4. And Slow Death seems to have a handful of other releases. I believe this is their 21st release per their kind of like their catalog code. Nice. So there's a lot more to go through. Going back through their catalog, I haven't been able to listen to anything else from these folks. But based on this, it sounds like there's a pretty vibrant scene in BC for these sorts of bands, especially if they have 21 tapes out at the moment. I think that speaks to the vibrancy of the scene. But would you recommend folks give this one a listen?
Yeah, I would definitely check it out. I mean, hell, if you don't like it, you only spent 6 minutes of your life. But yeah, dude, this was a great one. This week, my air conditioning in my car decided to break, and it just so happened to be one of the hottest weeks in the Bay Area this year so far. So I'm just sitting there, and the sun's beating down my face. Some reason it takes over an hour to get home when it should only take 20-30 minutes. And it's just one of those things for you're just per usual, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm just like looking around, the people around me. And it's just like, I'm just going to keep turning this up and just reflect my inner self throughout the world.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure.
But yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah, I highly recommend folks check this out. So what album do you want to speak about next, man?
Let's kind of do what I usually do and break it up and go with Alive with Scars, the prologue by Flowers for Body Snatchers.
Perfect. I had a feeling you were gonna delay the last most record to the very end. I had a feeling you were gonna do that, but I didn't want to bring it up.
Dude, I'm glad you know how I work.
Yes, your pattern has become quite obvious. But yeah, so this is Alive with Scars, prologue to an upcoming LP, I believe, that will be out on Cryo Chamber probably sometime this year. I assume it will come out this year. I haven't seen an announcement from Cryo Chamber quite yet, but this is the project, the neoclassical cinematic dark ambient project of Duncan Ritchie, who also helms the project titled The Rosenschul. And that, I think that project, or it treads a more noise, not noise, more like a drone. It has more of a drone vibe, but it has some industrial undercurrents to it. But before I talk everybody's ear off, do you have some background you want to supplement with what I've already said?
Yeah, Alive with Scars is released on September 2nd, 2018. And, yeah, Duncan Ritchie's the actual creator of, Flowers for Body Snatchers.
Right.
And, yeah, it's kind of along the genre of neoclassical dark ambient. And, yeah, it's just like a mini album, like you were saying, for Alive with Scars.
Yep.
Kind of, get you pumped for it. Which actually, I remember when you first put me on Flowers for Body Snatchers, that's kind of really what pushed me into getting more into Cryo Chambers artists. And then,
Oh, was
through
that so? Which album was that?
Oh, that was, crap, the Suicide Force one, the Aoki Gahara. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you say that again?
No, dude, you got it. You heard me right. Yeah, dude, the Sea of Trees. But yeah, that album was so enchanting and just, oh, dude, this guy's
depressing and melancholic.
Yeah, it's so talented that I'm always looking forward to his next release, and I'm glad we're talking about this one.
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this one too. Some of his music, actually, Aoki Gahara was one of the main reasons why I started writing reviews in the first place for From Corners Unknown. Kind of actually was about when I wrote that album. I think I wrote a review for one of Sabled Sun's Signal albums, which is Simon Heath's like drone. It's like 50 minutes of just like this drone that subtly shifts. And soon after I did a review for that, I did Aoki Gahara, and then I found, I started the website essentially.
Right.
So, he's been a pretty huge inspiration for me just from a writing perspective.
Right.
And it's, and this prologue was released on his personal Bandcamp page. This is irrespective of Cryo Chamber, but it's kind of a nice lead-in, and so we don't know exactly when his new album's coming out. I kind of have my fingers crossed for a vinyl release of it. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but
have a nice tasty vinyl.
If it happens, I will be very, very happy. But if not, it's whatever happens. But yeah, his last most release came out on Cryo Chamber in November 2017. So we're kind of coming up on that 1 year mark for his new release. And this, as we've said, is a prologue, and
the concept's nice.
Yeah, you wanna dive into that one a little bit?
Yeah,
or talk about that.
Yeah, he claims that the album begins to explore the lifelong struggle of living in a diseased body, and a body slowly being destroyed from the inside out by its own central nervous system.
Yes,
and then a body that, with the passing of time, will waste and wither to its own unique sonnet of pain and torment. So a good old happy concept for us all to think about, but despite the depressing kind of description, the music it can be a little dark, but it's beautiful.
Yes,
as with the rest of the stuff.
And this is technically a mini album. I've never been able to distinguish how you differ a mini album from, say, an EP. I don't know where you draw the line. It may be up to artist choice, but this is 4 tracks in length, and I think it's just shy of 30 minutes. So you still, it's a pretty hefty listen. You get about 28 minutes of neoclassical dark ambient. It will be interesting to see how this segues into, or how this kind of ports into the album, because I've done some conversations with Randall Collier Ford, who's also on Cryo Chamber, and he has some releases
dropping names.
Right. No. No. He's had a release where he has like an EP that is in anticipation for an LP to come out on Cryo Chamber, and that EP of his kind of fills in a couple of the components. It kind of provides some backstory, but kind of provides this overarching story. So I don't know if these 4 tracks are going to be just the like if it's just literally this is all the stuff that happens before. Yeah, or if each track is kind of different milestones or different parts of the story. Just it's
kind of like the spine of the story, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I think that makes it intriguing, or at least for me, it leaves me wondering exactly how it's going to unfurl. But let's get into the music because I'm rambling way too much.
Rambling Ryan.
Yeah, what'd you think? Right, thanks. Yeah, so what'd you think of this one?
Well, man, yeah, as usual, he kind of adds in a good amount of field recordings of just nature, and then has these nice drones that mix in classical instruments. But yeah, start with Alive with Scars, the first track. Kind of starts with this whispering, windy atmosphere and some like light drone. And then you have a piano that kind of dances its way through the darkness. And God, it's just so thought provoking. I always just found myself my mind is lingering to cool little visuals and stuff. I mean, it does help that I'm sitting there in like a dark room, most likely just kind of zoning out to the music. But
right.
Yeah, that first track really just kind of sets the whole mood for the remainder of the little mini album.
Yeah, and I really like the piano melody in this. I found it very moving, very like accosting in a sense. It kind of makes me want to stop doing everything and just focus in on the notes and just how much emotion pours from each finger hitting the keys. And it's brilliant, and it's also really, it doesn't really last that long in this track either, which I think is a nice which I appreciate too, because it kind of comes in for a couple minutes and then it fades out into what I've come to understand as kind of Duncan's more signature dark ambient sound. He kind of has that unsettling, dreary ambient that kind of rolls through. It has like a horror texture to it as well. Very dark, very dismal, and then he has there's like this nice little swell of strings that kind of comes in, and it has these, when there are tracks where he has he employs strings in a very evocative way, but I've found he uses strings quite often as well, as I've just talked about, in a horror way, where it has like this very unsettling, very tension, like there's no release coming from the strings, like they're just kind of scurrying, not giving you any relief while you listen to it. But yeah, that I really like that track, Alive with Scars. And even near the end, it has this bit of an unsettling, almost industrial pulsating,
it's like this
rhythm.
deep like kind of just beat.
Right, and it doesn't, like, it sort of has a rhythm, but it doesn't really conjure a specific mood for me. Like I don't want to say it almost sounds like I'm saying it in a negative way. It just has like this very void-like feeling, it's just kind of like death knocking on the door, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it just has this certain feeling to it. And I've seen a handful of artists on Cryo Chamber slowly, and this is me, I'm not trying to, I can't recall, I haven't been able to fully engage with every album, but it seems like a handful of artists have been employing a bit more of industrial textures as of late on the Cryo Chamber catalog.
I can see that.
And I don't think that this obviously isn't new for Duncan's music because he has the Rosenschul and he has sort of textures in that, and he's also employed that kind of industrial sound. I think even in Aokigahara or even in Love Like Blood, the follow-up to that, there definitely are moments where that comes through. But but anyway, we can go into another track. Do you have another one you want to speak about specifically?
Well, the next one I liked a lot. The Boketo.
Yeah.
Which I translated, I guess it's a Japanese word, which Wikipedia blatantly told me there's not a good way of translating it to English, but it's kind of like the idea of, just kind of staring off into the sky without any thoughts.
Yes, and I think that that's a pretty marvelous word. Even despite it not translating well to English, I think that that sentiment is very interesting because I've definitely had those moments myself, when you just kind of are staring off into space and you just kind of, I don't know, like you're just kind of not really, I don't know, like do you ever get that kind of a feeling? Do you ever have that where you're just kind of just staring off with like no real thought?
Yeah, you're just kind of blank,
really
just whatever, like just kind of, it's a weird feeling. I kind of dig it though. I wish I could just kind of be a, derpy and never think.
But so what about this song did you like in particular?
I was cool. I mean, of course I love the piano, kind of just a sad piano piece that kind of crawls over these darker, higher pitched tones. And then these tones grow louder and louder, and it kind of like made the hairs on my back stand up.
Mm-hmm.
It like almost sounds like an alarm getting cut short. Like,
okay.
I don't know, like some type of like air raid alarm or something. But yeah, and then these kind of like metallic string like pieces come in, and they do that kind of weird scurrying scratch, and all of it just kind of starts getting more menacing and dark. And then these strings just suddenly cut out, and there's these just reverberating deep hums. And then here comes the cool ass, field recording sounding stuff, where it kind of sounds like a cricket, kind of just belching out. Yep. And then rain starts trickling downward, and then this nice, just kind of stormy atmosphere picks up. And yeah, I fucking love rain. I don't even remember the last time I saw such a thing, but
right, yeah, in California, it doesn't really happen that often, does it?
Nah, dude, California's a shriveled up raisin.
Yeah, it's a different
but yeah, it just makes me just feel at peace. I love that stuff.
Yeah, and I really like that transition as you were describing. You kind of get some of that tension building horror element, and then it fades out into that more ethereal, ambient. It's quite minimalistic in a sense, and you get, as is tradition, I think, on a handful of dark ambient releases, the sound of footsteps kind of crunching and long, maybe like walking out into an open field or walking somewhere, like it kind of guides you somewhere, and it goes from, I don't know, maybe when you think about this track, it can be something to the effect of, all the nerves and all the worry or what have you, like all the horror you're feeling, and you're kind of walking out to this place to be at peace for a moment from this disease that is consuming this individual.
Right.
And as they get out there, you hear the rain falling, as you noted, the crickets, night critters, what have you. And then rumbles of thunder, I think, are coming through as well. I can almost never get it right with what is actually being sampled in these tracks. I like to think I know, but I don't. And yeah, you get just this really nice, expansive, minimal drone, and I don't know, it really ties well together with the title, staring off into the sky, gazing into the sky without a thought, and it's just kind of like you feel hollow, like your brain, like you're just like almost an out-of-body experience. That's what I was stumbling for earlier to try and describe, where you're just kind of staring, and I don't know, you just don't even feel like you're connected to anything, and you're just kind of blankly existing. But I don't know, I found it relatively peaceful by the end of that particular track, or at least that drone.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
coming to terms with what's happening with your body, and it's just kind
Yeah.
of like, well, screw it.
Right. Right. And yeah, and this is all speculation. Of
Yeah.
course, we don't actually know what this is going to entail, but I think that the track title tells you quite a bit about just the overall tone of the track. But yeah, and do you want to go in deep into the other tracks as well?
We can do one more, I feel like.
Yeah, which one do you want to talk about?
I think we could go with track number 4, Magnetic Radio.
Yeah, definitely.
Which, yeah, it kind of starts with this deep, hollow sound. And then it's kind of interrupted by these strange, like, kind of chaotic, irritating noises. Of course, I have no idea what the hell's going on. And then, like, kind of the strings start scratching violently at different tones. And it's a little more, like, visceral and, I don't know, it's slightly terrifying. And, of course, I kind of love that sound, but...
Yes.
And then, like, yeah, these strings kind of build and they kind of cut out too, and there's some deep rumbling drone going on.
Yep.
And yeah, there's so many different pieces of this track that I enjoyed quite a bit. There's almost like this weird monstrous like sound too, like this deep kind of like Cthulhu-esque vibe.
Yeah, I wrote that in my notes as well. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure. Yeah, there was like this really baritone, like just super deep yawning sound to it, like this kind of like this huge consuming drone going on, or I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but I definitely picked up on those sorts of vibes throughout that track as well.
Dang, I kind of want to talk about track 3 too.
Yeah, me as well. Yeah, likewise, man. I mean, yeah, each of these tracks are all pretty great. I mean, we could go back and dive into A Place Beyond, because I think that one has a pretty nice, there's a nice piano melody in this one as well. I found that to be at least the opening of that track. It kind of has that. It has a gracious, ethereal, kind of floating atmosphere to it, and kind of like Boketo, I think the track 2. I think A Place Beyond kind of syncs up with the the title syncs up a good bit with the feeling, at least in the beginning.
Yeah, I totally felt that.
Beyond.
It's just a somber kind of like tranquil feeling where you're just. I was kind of picturing like just these golden meadows breaking up like pine trees and just kind of beautiful stuff that you kind of just space out to.
Right. Yeah, and you get there's kind of this you get that the melody that comes in and then it kind of fades out into just like this vacuum, like this oblivion of just this drone. And and then the piano pours in a little bit. It pours in, but it's a little slower. And then this strange drone, kind of this more ghoulish drone.
Yeah, it's like
it kind of takes on a bit more of a phantasmic feel to it. A bit more of like a.
I had like a ghostly moan in my notes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the ghostly vibe, and that's what I was saying. Like A Place Beyond, it first feels tranquil and at peace, but it kind of evolves or devolves or transforms into this more ghostly realm. It kind of takes a bit of a turn as the track unfolds.
Yeah, I kind of was like, maybe it's the spirit of the body realizing its departure from its like bodily form.
Exact. Yep. That sounds right. I mean, it's all speculation at the moment, but it definitely gives me that seems to be what it is articulating, at least given the context we have with the synopsis of the album.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there was also this really strange bit. Then it's kind of a sound that eludes me when I try to articulate my thoughts on dark ambient music. But there's also in this track specifically kind of this strange deafening resonance
wow.
to it. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it has like just like this prolonged. I have such a hard time describing it. Like it just has this prolonged sound to it. Like the way it just kind of, I don't know. It feels just. I always stumble to describe it. But I don't know if you kind of know what I'm talking about. Like there's just like that moment where it's kind of sharp and loud and it's kind of swirling around.
It just kind of just showers over you and
yes,
yeah.
And then they had it's something where I believe that I've picked up on this a couple times in some of his other albums, but I always have a difficult time articulating exactly how to describe that. But it has such an eerie quality to it, and I don't know. I always gravitate toward trying to describe it, and then I can never do it. And I tried to right there, and I couldn't. So one day I will get it. But yeah, and then it kind of goes. It kind of moves into a little bit more. It kind of has that industrial pain to it, at least for a moment. It kind of has like those cracks, and it dissipates into this blackened ambient void, and then that's when we kind of start to hear the track take a. It seems to kind of spiral down into darker terrain.
Feels much more like hostile almost.
Yeah, and you kind of hear like the machinations of like the ghostly realm, like phantoms whisking by, and you hear like haunted, tortured moanings.
Sounds kind of hellish
of spirits. Yeah, no, it really does, and it's a really interesting juxtaposition, just the way it opens and the way it closes, how it feels kind of peaceful and novel and inviting, and then by the end of it, it's like. It's just horrifying, just the terror of it. It kind of raises the hair on your arms or your back or wherever.
Right.
Yeah, and then it just kind of ends with this garbled, drowning swell of static. But so we went a little out of order there on the last couple of tracks, but yeah, each of these are quite marvelous, and it's always a treat to be able to. Just listen to Duncan's music. This is definitely one of my favorite dark ambient artists that is currently making or composing in this genre. But yeah, would you recommend folks check this one out?
I feel like I've gushed quite a bit about this, and his other albums he's released and whatnot. So yeah, definitely. It's a great mix of just field recordings and kind of the, classical instrument sound and just dark ambience.
Right. Yeah. All right. And that leaves us with Potmus Hetoimus' Vox Medusae. I'm pretty jealous you found this album before I did.
Yeah, man.
I don't know how the hell. I should ask, how the hell did you find this album?
It was one of those things where, I think I was actually looking for, albums to listen to for a little, I forget what you call them, where we kind of just briefly, write a little 100 note thing.
Ah, right, the auditory reflections.
Yes. I was kind of looking for stuff for that, and I come across this, and I'm like, oh, like, this track's awesome. What else do they have? And then I go to it, and that was the only track released because it was just like a little sample of what's to come. And that was probably like a month and a half or 2 months before it actually came out.
Oh, shoot, it was that long ago.
Yeah, so I had this bookmarked for a while, just waiting for it to release so we could talk about it.
Interesting. So you're holding out on me. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of wanted to be like, yo, dude, check this out. But,
right.
Yeah, it was definitely worth the wait because this is pretty phenomenal.
Yes. Yeah, this is... I don't tend to make year-end lists, but this is probably, if I were to categorize it, it'd be in my top 5, hands down, of the records I've listened to this year. This is a superb record. I am very glad you stumbled upon this, because if you had not, I may have completely missed this. Just there's just so much stuff that comes out of Bandcamp. I miss a handful of good, really good releases. So I'm really glad that we get to talk about this one at length. Do you have some background on the artist?
Yeah. Well, the album was released on September 12th, 2018. So,
right.
Yeah, not too long ago. And it's like this weird, like, progressive, black and doomy sludge with these kind of jazz portions. Here, they kind of describe themselves in a way where they're like, their signature progressive sludge is extended in both intensity and creativity by incorporating the black and hardcore influence of bands like Cult Leader and Plebeian Grandstand, as well as jazz and funk inspirations of artists like Prince and Kamasi Washington, which automatically is like, what the fuck? But
it
cool.
sounds like when you read the description, you're like, I don't see how, like, if you just think about it, I was like, you have to hear it to really see if it actually makes sense. Because, there are certain bands you can listen to where they try and combine genres, and it just does not work out as great as you would think. But this is such a strange amalgamation of sound, but it comes together so goddamn well. And on first listen, when I first delved into this, I thought it was a bit of a hot mess for a second. I don't know why. I was kind of like, what the hell is actually going on here? And then I gave it like 2 or 3 solid listens, and then it all just made sense. And I was like, oh my god, like I don't know, the way it all just hit me at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been like obsessively listening to it and just taking notes and I read the lyrics through while listening to the album a couple times, and I think that would be to folks' benefit if they are interested, because the way this album is set up is essentially you have 9 characters, and I guess it's almost set up as a play.
Yeah, like if this was like a live theatrical performance,
yes.
I would be all like, take my money. This is awesome.
Yes, I would be all over.
I want to watch this played out.
Yes, yeah. So basically, so this is essentially a one-man project, or at least the essence. Not, he doesn't play. He may write. I think he may write almost all the stuff, and he has people. He kind of recruits people to help play certain parts. I'm probably wrong on that, but it's essentially the project. The essence of this is embodied in one individual named Matt Matheson, and he's from Baltimore, Maryland. And this is his 11th album, so I have a lot of listening to do after discussing this, because I can't believe this guy has released this many albums, and I've never heard of him. Yeah. He's
been around since amazing. 2006.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, and I believe every album he's released, they all have some concept, some theme, some really huge, some story that he's articulating. It's not just a bunch of tracks, throw them together and release it. They all have this very intricate story he wants to tell. And on this one, there are 9 characters, and each one of them are interacting throughout the 8 songs that comprises this, and each character is essentially assigned their own scale, music scale.
So crazy.
Yeah, and each one of them has a very distinct sound, and even the voices. I think he does a lot of the voices, except for, say, the Medusa character. And then there are some some growls, some snarls, what have you, that are from other voices. But they all have their own cadence, and they all have their own deliveries, and it's mind blowing when you listen to this front to back. And yeah, I guess we could go through. I have the notes right here. There are 9 characters. Not to delve super deep into all of this, but yeah, there's Medusa, which is on the that is the character on the album cover. Is Medusa a Gorgon?
Gorgon, yeah, like the weird
a Gorgon,
snaky witch.
Right. Yeah. So she's the temptress, and she is an external personification of the supreme object of lustful attraction and obsession. And these words are all from Matt's description. I did not write this. And this whole thing revolves around pornography addiction, or struggling with pornography addiction. So you have Medusa, and then you have the addict, who is the true human struggling with his addiction. Mm-hmm. You have lust, which is the addict's uninhibited obsessive desire. Shame, the addict's filthy guilt over his inability to control his thoughts and actions. Rage, the addict's bitter anger at himself for constantly failing. The killer, who is the murderer of true beauty by reducing women to objects. The witness is the impartial observer of the killer's deeds, or to the killer's deeds. The prophet is a conscience speaking truth, warning, and encouragement. And the conqueror is the valiant would-be slayer of the Medusa. So, yeah, those are the 9 characters that make up this album, and it is, yeah, it's a journey. It is unreal. I honestly, when I first listened to this, I didn't really understand what I was hearing, and after a couple listens, I was like, man, This is remarkable. Like, this is just on another level that I just can't even really fully comprehend yet.
It literally has a structure to it that could be turned into an actual play. Like,
it could be, and I hope, and I really hope. Maybe, I mean, I don't know if there will be any extensions into other artistic mediums beyond the music itself, but this is such a unique amalgam of sounds. I think. Even just for the concept and the execution alone, it should be lauded, or should be listened to just for that in and of itself, even if you don't particularly take to, say, proggy black metal or what have you. I think the concept alone will sell you on at least listening to this once front to back. Right. It is definitely worth your time. But yeah, you want to... I mean, my problem is I want to talk about every track. I want to be like every single minute, be like, this is what happened. Yeah. But they may completely, it'll probably deflate it a little bit if we go a little too crazy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, where do you want to, we could probably
start I might as well start with the first one.
Yeah, so.
We could do a whole episode on this alone, even.
We probably could.
But yeah, let's start with first, part 1.
Are you gonna say it, or are you afraid of saying it?
Just a tad bit. Voices from guys who pronounce things wrong. Yeah,
I think it's Idle Anathema. I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, but yeah, it starts off with the Medusa character, which is female, kind of screeching, echoing vocals, which she had Jane Vincent do, and it just starts with her like kind of belting out like. It's kind of her thing. Kind of, I don't know, maybe trying to seduce the addict or whatnot.
Yeah, and she has like she's very vociferous, and it's almost like she just kind of comes right out and like establishes what she is. Like she kind of states what she is. I think that she basically just proclaims, she's like, this is what I am, and then we kind of just trudge into the track from there. But
yeah, and like the delivery of her vocals are kind of like you are standing out in a play and you're kind of speaking out to the audience almost.
Yes, exactly, and that's what I love about her delivery of it. Yeah, exactly right, exactly.
Yeah, and then instrumentally though, you got these, just these gritty, nice kind of, progressive, sludgy stuff going on, and like the bass. Oh, the bass in this.
Yeah, the bass is great. You can hear pretty much every note just plucking away or, plunging away.
Yeah, especially, like, you got that in, like, kind of the more metal portions, but then you got the jazz aspects, which are just...
Yes.
They're just funky and so strange, but so interesting.
It may in part be due to how it's mixed as well. I'm not sure, but everything, you can hear every instrument come through, and nothing fights with each other. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, oh, I wish I could hear this instrument a bit more. Like, the guitar is going.
You just gotta like focus your mind on what you want to listen to.
Yeah, and like when it all comes together, even on the first listen, I didn't even like. Maybe that's why I thought it was kind of a cluster when I was first listening to it, because I'm like, man, there's so much going on. But with each repeated listen, just the way they interplay with each other, I don't know, it's just so exciting to listen to. There's so much to digest. But before I go on a very long ramble about this, if you want to continue speaking about the first track,
we can jump to the next one.
Oh, do you want to? Okay.
I mean, if you're down. But
it's up to you. Yeah. Well, the problem is I can pretty much go like, I think what's nice about the first track to kind of preface the tracks following is it sets up a bit of a template. At least in my mind, it set up a bit of a template in the way it transitions between characters.
Right, yeah.
Because when you're listening to this, you have Medusa kind of proclaim or tell you what she is, and then you get this, kind of this sludgy, but it's almost like you get this black metal drum pattern, and it kind of has this, I don't know, it has this, you get, it's like just a blackened, it's more just like the proggy black metal. But beneath that, you get some keys and some saxophone lulling, and it kind of rolls into this calm instrumental passage, and it's pockmarked with these almost like trinket, toyish sounding keys. It kind of gave me like an elevator music vibe, but not in the bad way. Like not in like, oh, it's just like in the background. Like it just kind of has this playfulness to it. Like there's just kind of this weird jovialness to it, and you can hear the bass kind of plucking underneath. But there will be an instrumental passage, and then it'll go into the next character, which is the Witness, and the Witness kind of does kind of articulates similarly to Medusa. At least I felt. I guess that since we're in the context of a play, that could be why the lyrics for the Witness are delivered in the way they are. But it has almost like the Witness has kind of this objective, spacious, airy voice to it, and it's kind of just making these observations, and it's saying, oh, this woman, she was beautiful once and now she's fallen away, and she's kind of saying these things about how pornography is kind of reducing women to objects in a sense, right? It's like you're seeing the addict and what the addict is doing to these women in a sense, and it's kind of like the Witness is just objectively saying, well, this is what's happening right now, and it's just kind of feeding you this information. But the way, like the cadence of it, the delivery of it, I think it pairs really well with the information it is feeding you. And then there's also, I mean, the only reason why I like to talk about this is because it's also helping me introduce or kind of explain some of the character, like, because each character just has a distinctness to them. And then in this track as well, you also get the addict, and the addict tends to have like this raspier throat delivery.
Right.
And in this track in particular, it goes, when he comes in and starts saying his lines, essentially, it has a slower, doomier, almost a little bit of a manic vibe to it. And then you get these little folds of synth, and that's another thing too, like piano, sax, synth. It's like always coming in, and it's always like weaving in and weaving out throughout every track. It's not there for just like a little bit of proggy flair. Like it's very much embedded into the structure of each song. Like each song has some component of it, and even if you may not hear it the first time,
there,
It's there. Yeah. The synth is actually pretty huge. And I can't explain synth worth a crap because I don't have the vernacular. But yeah. But I could probably go on another 10-minute discussion of the first track alone, so we should move on to the next one. I have way too many notes, but
Same.
Thank you, folks, for bearing with me as I kind of nerd out over this because I just love it so much.
Shit. Well, I kind of want to go into track 2.
Yeah, let's go into track 2. We don't have to go into.
Well, we'll skip a few.
Yeah, we want to leave some of it up to some folks, or we can maybe touch on a couple tracks a bit. You know, like we can kind of not skip over them, but
not
just
go
like,
in as depth into them.
Right. So what about the second track, Voracious Embrace?
Yeah, that one was cool because it kind of starts with this crazy piano smashing strangeness, which in a weird way, it reminded me of like maybe Charlie Brown on crack.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it was like a little catchy, like little tune, but
yeah. And
then those fast-paced instrumentals of like weird guitars and all that come in, and just the fucking drums are just blasting.
Yeah, the drums are great.
And then there's kind of this weird synthy piano, electric piano stuff going on that kind of sounds organ-like. Mm-hmm. And then you get to this portion around like 3 minutes where like the synth stuff becomes really weird and stands out more. Mm-hmm. And yeah, of course I can't describe that crap worth of shit either, but it's cool. it's fucking cool.
Can't describe that crap worth of shit. Nice. Yeah, great.
Yeah, dude.
There, man.
Crap with crap, you know me. But yeah, and then you get a couple more characters in there, which we could talk about for 10 minutes. I think I really enjoy this part where the Lust character comes in, and the lyrics are like, "Abandon, strip down, show me your form. I watch the honey drip from your tongue, feel the chilling caress of your fingers, relent." It's just like I said, I would love to see this kind of played out. It would be really cool, in a physical way.
Yeah, like, it's very vivid. In I mean, I guess the lyrics are pretty. Like, I don't want to say like they're pretty on the nose, you know, like they're not necessarily like super subtle because like they're all personified, so like they're all like they all have a very specific voice. But yeah, the lust, it's like that the addict, or the lust is the addict's uninhibited obsessive desire. So as you were saying those words, like that's exactly, you know, like
it's just some sleazy, like
it's just kind of and it's like shouting out, and it's just like it's like no control over it, right? It's just kind of it's like it's always coming to the forefront of this guy's mind or this individual's mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then at like 4 minutes 40 seconds, you get kind of these like tinkle tone sounding things. God, dude,
yes,
that's a stupid way to describe that too. But which then turns into these sludgy guitars and just beautiful piano work. Yes. And like there's these showering piano moments kind of cycling around these guitars, and it's just this epic kind of landscape created. And it it's like I've got my hands around her throat, this is the last night she'll ever live. And then like that line kind of repeats in a way at the end, and it's just, man. We could do a whole episode on this. There's just so much to talk about.
Yeah, we probably could. Maybe if folks actually want to listen to us ramble, we can do a more full, in-depth discussion of this. I'm sure I'm going to be listening to this throughout the rest of this year and in the months going into 2019. But I really like this track as well, Voracious Embrace. And the in that moment when you were talking about Lust, the Lust character, it kind of, the way there's an interlude preceding it and the way it kind of catapults into the black metal and the intensity, like the double kicks of the drums, like it's just it's just unrelenting, and it just that's really what I enjoy about this so much, in the way that all these different genres are, I don't want to say between each character that there's always an interlude of sorts, but there are so many moments where it just transitions so seamlessly between the different, textures, timbres, riffs, and I don't know, it's just so masterfully crafted. Like, it's just done with such intent, like you could tell that this was such a specific thing that that Matt wanted to articulate. And I really, this I mean, every single track on this is superb, and it's really just a journey listening to these, and how they so seamlessly he just so seamlessly weaves so many disparate genres together. It's pretty remarkable. But do you want to go into other specific tracks? Because I could probably talk about Voracious Embrace, but I'll refrain so I don't go too crazy.
Right. I mean, I feel like we should do a couple more. I'll let you pick the next one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, we could, I mean, there are a couple, so like the couple tracks, I guess as like before we go into those very specifically, or another two, just a quick little note. They have there's some nice tracks on tracks 4 and 8 that's kind of like a little break in the middle and at the end. Those are just more like instrumental. Yeah. I mean, there are vocals in them, but they're definitely more of like an interlude of sorts, like an intentional interlude. And
4 is a trip.
Four tripped me out to the extent that it was actually a little noisy in a sense, you know, like it kind of, it definitely had it's like took on this noise vibe. Like, it had these, computed drums, like programmed drums.
Yeah, and they're kind of like skipping. Yeah, too.
Yeah, and there's like this weird groundswell of kind of noise and static crackling, and the vocals, like Matt is saying, he's saying certain words, but he doesn't even really provide
the lyrics are all like scrambled and like weird characters. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, you don't really know what's being said, and that's probably the intent. And to me, what the Fits and Fevers represents, that fourth track, is kind of this guy wrangling, like it's probably him going through kind of like a relapse, or you know what I mean, like, or he's
like pissed at himself and just fucking like fuck.
Like, right. I feel like it's almost like that's the moment where he may be trying to get over like the symptoms of withdrawal, almost, kind of like you kind of are addicted to something and you fall out of it, but like your body still craves it, so you're kind of going through like that feverish period where you're just trying to get over it, what I mean? I don't know. It should be a bit more on the nose. I probably need to listen to this more to really grasp and wrangle the concept here. But yeah, and then near the end of that track, it's very interesting the way it breaks out into, it's almost like an a cappella of some sort. Like, it's just like such like this clean, grand singing, and it almost sounds like a handful of his voices are like all like singing in harmony with each other, and it just has like this, I don't know, it's so strange. I've never really heard anything like it in a metal song before, so I can't describe it superbly well, unfortunately.
Just listen to it.
But yeah, it's really interesting. And then as soon as that part ends, then there's like this solemn piano melody, and it just kind of plays as this like this little swell of ambience rumbles underneath it, and it just has like this somber and alone feeling to it. There's it's really it's an interesting interlude, and I really wasn't even expecting to talk about it that much, but there you go. it's just I can't help myself. But I think I'm trying to think of another track to discuss without going too crazy, but I think the 6th and 7th track would be pretty good.
I agree.
I mean, at least, especially the 7th
Dude,
track.
7.
Yeah, that is such an epic song. But I really, at least on the 6th track, what I enjoyed about that was particularly was the opening riff with the Conqueror. The Conqueror that's the only appearance they make. That is the would-be slayer of Medusa, and it has just such this epic, uplifting, like valiant.
Yeah, it's like that traditional kind of like
sound.
Greek hero, or like in this case it's Perseus, the guy who kills Medusa.
Yes.
But like,
Exactly.
yeah, it's just like that golden Greek, like I will defeat the enemy and save the kingdom or whatever. It really kind of captures that with its own unique, funky sax guitar vibe.
Yeah, no, it really is superb, and yeah, I really like that track. But just to save ourselves on some time, maybe we'll talk about this album more in depth later on in some other format or in some other episode. But I wanted to just note that as a bright spot, even though, I mean, I don't even know if I can call it a bright spot, because I just love every aspect of this. But the 7th track, Braid of Ouroboros, that is so that's the longest track, almost 13 minutes. It's 12 minutes 40 seconds, and it's effectively, like the end of it, at least from like the story's conclusion in a sense. I would think that the 8th track, the Last Most track, is maybe a bit more of like an epilogue. But yeah, let's go into that. Let's go into Braid of Ouroboros to close this out. Do you want to start with this?
Yeah. Straight off, I was kind of trying to think of it because like Ouroboros is like the weird snake thing that's eating itself. So I'm like,
yeah, I thought, yeah, is that a Nordic? Or
no,
is
that's
that
Greek.
A Viking?
That's pretty sure that's Greek.
Oh, is it Greek? Oh, okay.
But
maybe it appears in a bunch. Maybe I thought. Yeah, I thought that was okay.
yeah, it's like the
maybe it
serpent
appears in
swallowing its
various-
own tail. I mean, there's certain
Yes.
things that are similar in all mythologies, but
Right. Yeah, you know more about that stuff than I do. Pardon for that stupid digression I just made.
God, dude, get your mythology right.
I know.
But I was kind of like trying to think of like what that could relate to, just going off the title. But yeah, it's cool. It kind of starts off with this weird warping, like, I don't know, electronic-y sound,
Right.
and then the Medusa like vocals come in, and it's just like I said, it's just like this weird layering that's just this. Sounds like this classic evil. I don't know what I meant by that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
no,
like theatrical
no,
evil.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I've struggled putting words exactly to how some of the tone of some of these things are, and I think it's just it may partially be to some of our lack of, like just the verbosity. Like we don't have all the technical language to really be like, oh, that's exactly what that is. It's kind of like we have to be like, oh, it sounds like this, and that's the closest we can get to describe it.
We're just
That's
swallowing
basically
our
what
own
I've been
tails,
doing.
like some.
Right. Well, and to your point on what the Braid of Ouroboros, what you thought it meant, I'm pretty sure it's basically just denoting kind of the cyclical aspect of not really being able to escape the fate of getting over addiction. In a sense, it's like no matter what you do, you're just gonna kind of fall back into that routine or that pattern.
You always have to like
swallowing
fight
your own tail.
against it too.
Yeah, you're always trying to, rebel or just, like fight against it, and that is it comes through very obvious at the end of this track. The lyrics are very overt in describing this. But anyway, as you were saying about the track itself.
Yeah, there's that cool warping stuff, and then you get the Medusa lyrics. And then, like, I don't know, the beginning, like, the drums and bass in this one are, like, really kind of mesmerizing to me. Yeah. And it's one of those things where, like, I'm catching a different layer of instrumentals each time. Like, one time it's, like, the bass. The other time it's, like, the weird, saxophone, piano stuff. And then at other times it's just the fucking blackened sounding drums just fucking beating away.
Yes.
But there's just so many layers in this track. It's kind of hard for me to kind of combine my notes and really fully capture what it really encompasses. Like, this is like the meat of the album. Like, I feel like this is the pivotal part of the whole entire kind of story in a way.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it has a very neat dynamic, in to the extent that it builds a lot of tension. You Yeah, it builds tension with those drums. Like the drums are they're pretty fast, and they're pretty unrelenting for a time. And I think, if I basically what happens is there's a neat dynamic to the extent that it builds up an intensity, and then it kind of takes it back down, and you kind of get like this little lull where it kind of helps like bring down, like it kind of calms everything down for a couple minutes. There's some nice little interludes sprinkled throughout before it starts to ramp up toward the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get some yeah, like I'm trying to it's hard to just describe the entire dynamic. Like
I mean, it's 13 minutes, dude.
Yeah, it's a long track, but it's the way that I don't know, the way it builds up the intensity, and it kind of it ebbs away from it, and then it builds it up again and ebbs away from it, and at the very end, when it really builds into the last couple minutes, the drums get so intense, and it's a weird juxtaposition, because the lyrics seem to be, I don't know if defeatist is the right word, but it kind of is coming to terms with, you're going to be kind of in this cycle endlessly, right?
Dude,
I mean,
I love those lyrics at the end.
Yeah, the addict is saying, the Mobius strip, the Lazarus curve, I walk the same road over and over. And it's a weird, like, the way that the addict is kind of realizing, it's like, okay, I'm going to be going through these motions for essentially the rest of my life. But the way the music builds up, it has just like this really euphoric feeling to it. Like, just I don't know if you got that. I don't know if you found it melancholic.
Yeah.
But I found it like to be pretty euphoric, and I'm not exactly sure like what the juxtaposition, because the lyrics seem like you're like kind of having that realization that it's more depressed. Maybe I would think that could make you more depressed realizing that, but maybe the realization that you are kind of in the cycle and being aware of it, then maybe that helps you kind of rebel against it in a sense.
Right.
And there's euphoria and understanding,
Kind of know what
and
to
accepting that. Yeah, and it's just like, okay, well, this is a battle I'll be fighting, and I'm just going to I'm just going to persist, and just move on and just keep fighting against it. But man, I don't know. I found just the last couple minutes to be like super emotional. I don't know why. I really just love the way it builds and the drums are going, and then the last like 10 or 15 seconds, like the double kick, whatever, it is so insanely fast. I don't know. I just find it I found it very cathartic.
Yeah.
Especially when you listen to the album front to back, when you reach that point, it hits that high, and it's so well done. Yeah, and then it kind of just it fades off, and then you get kind of the final track, which is just kind of a lone piano, and it feels kind of frantic and running around and confused and melancholic, or kind of dismal and dreary. But yeah, I really love that last track. But yeah, is there anything else you want to add to that?
I mean, there's a whole nother hour I could add to it, but
right.
we won't necessarily do that to people listening.
No, we won't do that. I want to. I mean, we've been talking for a good bit, and I could easily probably do another hour. Yeah, like you said, at least another hour, even an hour and a half talking about this, just because there's so much to discuss. But I would say, if you're into Doom, I mean, like there are definitely elements of Doom, but there's a lot of sludge, a lot of jazz, a lot of kind of funky interludes, you know, like I still don't know exactly how to describe them. I hope Matt does not find my use of elevator music insulting. I really can't think of anything better, and I'm not, I don't mean it in a bad way. It's like it just has this, it just like kind of has like this dainty quality to
It kind of
like,
reminds me of, like, I can't think of any specific movies right now or TV shows, but there's like part where it's like this action scene going on, you know, guys are chasing after each other and shoot each other, and then maybe the character will crash through like a window of, like, I don't know, like a fancy club or bar or whatever, and then suddenly the sound epic action soundtrack turns into this, like, oh, this is the inside of the restaurant's, you know, jazzy, peaceful music playing, and then you jump right back into like the fight right after they leave the restaurant or whatever.
Right. I mean, that very well, I think that captures at least what I'm trying to articulate a bit better than me just fumbling for words at the moment. But yeah, I this album is really remarkable, just in scope and execution. It is really one of a kind, at least from relative to everything I've listened to. I've not heard anything like this, and it's just this really amazing blend of like ambient, jazz, post-metal, sludge. There's just so much going on, and our words here, I hope that we've interested you some in going and checking this out. I think it's worthy of anybody's attention to listen to this, even if you may not be into metal. I think that this is a really remarkable album, and there's so much to digest. I've seriously listened to this probably over 20 times, and I just want to keep listening to it just to kind of sink my teeth into every layer that's going on here. But yeah, maybe I don't know, man, if you want, maybe we can dedicate a little one-off episode or something. Maybe you and I can just have a discussion. We can ramble about stuff and see how it falls out if you want.
Yeah.
We can do a lengthier discussion of this and just dedicate it to that. Maybe not in the Voices format. Maybe we can. I don't know if folks will be interested. But would you recommend folks check this out, or provide some final thoughts on this and all that? I mean, because I've talked about this enough.
This is one where, I'm so glad I just suddenly was just like, ooh, how does this sound? And I was like, oh, this is really cool. We should look forward to this. Yeah. And then I followed through with looking forward to it. And it like exceeded my expectations of what this album would sound like and be like.
For sure.
There's just so much to it, and it can appreciate so many different aspects of it. Yes. It's something else.
Yeah. There's a lot to digest, and if you're into just jazz or sax, just hearing it for the novelty alone, or just like the unique concatenation, layering of all these sounds, I think it's certainly worth anybody's time. But we will leave it at that. Thank you to folks for listening to me get excited about this, and thank you for if you made it through to the end of our discussion of this, thank you.
You've been listening to episode 18 of Voices from Corners Unknown, and feedback would be cool. In fact, we kind of got our first negative feedback. That was pretty awesome, I guess. You know, the guy checked us out.
Yeah, we're gonna get
and said that one of us sounds like we're constipated. I don't know which one of us. It could be either one of us, but
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's me, and I took that one right on the chin. I'm gonna get a couple plaques made of it so I can forever remember the first piece of harsh criticism I've received online and how much joy it brought me.
So good. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
Yes. Yeah. Please. But yes, if folks have constructive criticism for us, it is always appreciated. Just trying to improve. And I don't know how much we reiterate this, but if there are albums that, you stumble upon throughout the year that you think we should cover, or you think it would be interesting for us to talk about, please feel free to just send them along to us so we can discuss them. We're always looking for new stuff, and we usually don't have a problem finding new albums necessarily, but I'm always interested to see what other people are listening to, because we're only two individuals, and we can easily overlook some superb releases throughout the year, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that is safe to say. So,
Yo, I think this is definitely becoming our longest episode. I don't know how that happened. There's not even like stuff I could cut out, but that's pretty cool.
yeah. We may be able to slice out a little bit here and there, but overall, this is definitely one of the longer episodes. But we thank you. We thank anybody who stuck through this to the end, and hopefully you enjoy some of these records. Hopefully it turned you on to some interesting music, and we'll see you in the 19th episode.